The coming of the Iron Man. The Iron Man came to the top of the cliff. How far he'd walked? Nobody knows. Where had he come from? Nobody knows. How was he made? Nobody knows. Taller than a house, the Iron Man stood at the top of the cliff, on the very brink, in the darkness. The wind sang through his iron fingers. His giant iron head, shaped like a dustbin but as big as a bedroom, slowly turned to the right, slowly turned to the left. His iron ears turned this way, that way. He was hearing the sea. His eyes, like headlamps, glowed white, then red, then infrared, searching the sea. Never before had the Iron Man seen the sea. He swayed in the strong wind that pressed against his back. He swayed forward on the brink of the high cliff. And his right foot, his enormous iron right foot, lifted up, out into space. And the Iron Man stepped forward off the cliff into nothingness. Crash! Down the cliff the Iron Man came toppling, head over heels. Crash! 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 From rock to rock, snag to snag, tumbling slowly, and as he crashed and crashed and crashed, his iron legs fell off, his iron arms broke off, and then his iron hands came off the arms, and his great iron ears fell off, and his eyes fell out, and his great iron head fell off, and all the separate pieces tumbled, scattered, crashing, bumping, clanging down onto the rocky beach far below. A few rocks tumbled with him. Then silence. Only the sound of the sea chewing away at the edge of the rocky beach, where the bits and pieces of Iron Man lay scattered far and wide, silent and unmoving. Only one of the iron hands, lying beside an old, sand-logged, washed-up seaman's boot, waved its fingers for a minute, like a crab on its back, and then it lay still. While the stars went on wheeling through the sky and the wind went on tugging at the grass on top of the cliff, the sea went on boiling and booming. No one knew the Iron Man had fallen. Night passed. Just before dawn, as the darkness grew blue and the shapes of the rocks separated from each other, two seagulls flew crying over the rocks. They landed on a patch of sand. They had two chicks in the nest on the cliff, and now they were searching for food. One of the seagulls flew up. Arr! He'd seen something. He glided low over the sharp rocks. He landed and picked something up, something shiny, round and hard. It was one of the Iron Man's eyes. He brought it back to his mate. They both looked at this strange thing. And the eye looked at them. It rolled from side to side, looking first at one gull, then the other. The gulls, peering at it, thought it was a strange kind of clam, peeping at them from its shell. Then the other gull flew up, wheeled round, and landed and picked something up. Something awkward, heavy thing. The gull flew low and slowly, dragging the heavy thing. Finally, the gull dropped it beside the eye. This new thing had 5 legs, and it moved. The gulls thought it was a strange kind of crab. They thought it had found a strange crab and a strange clam. They did not know they had found the Iron Man's eye and the Iron Man's right hand. But as soon as the eye and the hand got together, the eye looked at the hand, its lights glowed blue. Then the hand stood up on 3 fingers and its thumb, and craned its forefinger like a long nose, and it felt around. It touched the eye. Gleefully it picked up the eye, tucked it under its middle finger. The eye peered out between the forefinger and the thumb, and now the hand could see. It looked around. Then it darted, and it jabbed one of the gulls with its stiffly held finger, then darted at the other and jabbed him. The gulls flew up in the wind with a frightened cry. Slowly the hand crept over the stones, searching. It ran forward suddenly, grabbed something else and tugged. But the thing was stuck between 2 rocks. The thing was one of the Iron Man's arms. And at last the hand left the arm and went scuttling hither and hither among the rocks, until it stopped and touched something gently. This thing was the other hand. Now, the new hand stood up and hooked its finger around the little finger of the hand with the eye, and let itself be led. Now these 2 hands, the seeing one leading the blind one, walking on their fingertips, went back together to the arm, and together they tugged it free. The hand with the eye fastened itself onto the wrist of the arm, and the other arm stood up and walked onto its hand. The other hand clung on as before, and this strange trio went searching. And there it was, blinking at them speechlessly beside a black and white pebble. Seeing the hand fitted the eye To the blind hand, now both hands could see. They were running amongst the rocks. Soon they found a leg. They jumped on top of the leg, and the leg went hopping over to the rocks with the arm, swinging from the hand that clung to the top of the leg. The other hand clung on top of that hand. The two hands with their eyes guided the leg, twisting it this way and that, like a rider guides a horse. Soon they found another leg, and the other arm. Each hand with its eye under its palm and an arm dangling under its wrist, rode on the legs separately across the beach. Hop, 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 they went, peering amongst the rocks. One found an ear, and at the same moment the other found a giant torso. Then busy hands fitted the legs to the torso. Then they fitted the arms, each fitting the other, and the torso stood up with the legs and the arms but no head. Oh dear. It looked around the beach, holding its eyes up in its hands, searching for its lost head. At last there was a head, eyeless, earless, nested in a heap of red seaweed. Now, in no time, the Iron Man had fitted its head back, its eyes were in place, and everything in place except for one ear. It strode around the beach, searching for its lost ear. As the sun rose over the sea, the day came. The two gulls sat on their ledge, high on the cliff. They watched the immense man, striding to and fro over the rocks below. Between them, on the nesting ledge, lay a giant iron ear. The gulls could not eat it. The baby gulls could not eat it. It just lay there on the high ledge. Far below, the Iron Man searched. At last he stopped and looked at the sea. Was he thinking the sea had stolen his ear? Perhaps he was thinking the sea had come up whilst he lay scattered, and had gone down again with his ear. He walked towards the sea. He walked into the breakers, and he stood there for a while, the breakers bursting around his knees. He then walked deeper and deeper. The gulls took off and glided down low over the great iron head that was now moving slowly out towards the swell. The eyes blazed red, level with the wave tops, till a big wave covered them and the foam spouted out over top of the head. The head still moved out under the water, and the eyes and the top of the head appeared for a moment in the hollow of the swell. Now the eyes were green. Then the sea covered them and the head. The gulls circled low over the line of bubbles that went on moving slowly out into the deep sea.